Welcome to another Filmcast Without a Cause, a podcast where we talk about movie news, reviews, and whatever we want, because we're just doing this for fun, guys. I'm Jacob Rosdale, and I'm joined, as always, by...
Patrick Boberg. How's it going, Jacob?
It's going pretty well. It's been a busy week. This is the weird thing about our podcast, is we record it. It's not a live podcast. I've talked to you about doing a live podcast. It would probably be like that Colin Show sketch on Mr. Show. Did you ever see that one?
No.
I will post the link that on our website. Anyway, we record this days ahead of time, so we kind of missed something last week.
Just by a hair. We recorded on last Monday, and then on Tuesday, the 30th, the sky fell, or the sky opened up, and suddenly, the darkness that was there has disappeared. The darkness being George Lucas?
Yeah, it was like the biggest possible movie news story in existence, and it happened right after we finished recording our podcast. So we did not talk about it last week. In case you have been under a rock or just avoid movie news, except for this podcast, which is quite funny. Disney, that would be the Walt Disney Company, bought Star Wars from George Lucas for $4.5 billion. And... the internet pretty much blew up. Is that safe to say?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, do you think this will become like a nerd thing where people will, like, this will be a milestone where people will ask, where were you when you learned the news of there being new Star Wars or the Disney purchase?
It'll be that way until episode 7 comes out and it's lackluster, and then no one will care.
Well, let's hope that's not the case. But it was the funniest thing for me because I hardly get random text messages from people. But I was at a panel for, there were some filmmakers visiting my program, and my phone just blew up. I got 4 texts from 4 different people. You're actually the one who broke the news to me, because I did check my email during this Q&A session, but then my phone exploded with 4 different texts from different people some of which I haven't talked to in probably years, wanting to be the people to let me know that Star Wars was bought and that there were going to be new Star Wars movies. So it's a pretty big deal. And so the internet, as we said, exploded. There were so many theories, articles, opinions, and speculation that just...
You know, the interesting thing is about 3 months ago, we had a discussion about could Star Wars ever be cool again, and... I remember saying that the only way it would happen is if George Lucas died or somehow gave up Star Wars. And lo and behold, he sells it for $4 billion, and it's the only thing anyone wants to talk about.
I never thought this would happen.
Neither did I. There's just too much money to be made.
It's kind of the benefit we have of actually missing the story the first go-round, because we would have talked about it. We would have known absolutely nothing. But now nearly a week has passed, and we know the purchase amount. We know that there will be a new film in 2015. That it will be Episode 7, VII, that it will be a new story, or at least a story that's still a little fuzzy. They say it's a new story, but they also say that it might be based off of outlines Lucas wrote, but it won't be based on like the books or any of the expanded universe stuff, that comic books or the Thrawn trilogy or anything like that.
We won't be seeing Luke's kids or Leia and Han's kids.
That's what happened in expanded universe. I wouldn't be surprised if they went that route. Even if they give us new characters, you'd want to see some continuation of the bloodline or whatever. And we also know George Lucas will not direct, which is very key point of information for the next question I'm going to ask. We're going to get into our opinions about this. So, Disney buying Star Wars, Pat, is it a new hope, or do you have a bad feeling about this?
I'd say I'm pretty convinced it's a good thing, because I'm one of the people, you've probably heard me say this before, Jacob, a million times, that every movie is going to be remade or turned into a franchise at some point, because that's what Hollywood does. They go to the well. And is there a bigger well right now than Star Wars? I think it's grossed as a franchise more than any other franchise out there, unless Avatar starts making $2 billion of film.
Yeah.
But it just seems like this is a great idea, and Disney's obviously had its bad films, but they also have their blunder of riches as well. You know, that's not the right term, but you know, they've got a good amount of good movies too. So I think this could be a masterstroke.
This is the most excited I've been about Star Wars since 1999, pre-Phantom Menace, when the world seemed, full of possibilities. They were going to make a new Star Wars, but the key point is that they're going to make a new Star Wars, and George Lucas is not involved. or at least involved in a limited capacity. He's just someone who he's gotten to such a position of power that no one could tell him no. So the films were lackluster, the prequels. And I think there are so many talented people who love the original trilogy at least. They might be fond of the prequels as well. But I think Disney's going to do right. They want to make this a living thing. There's talk about making movies they're not going to stop at a trilogy. They're just going to keep making films. They're going to literally, as Weird Al predicted in the song Yoda, making these movies till the end of time. I think that's super. They can get talented people. They can take chances, especially if they're, they can make smaller movies too with the Star Wars brand. They don't all have to be, part of the big saga episode or whatever. They can take tangents and do a Boba Fett movie if they wanted to. I can't wait until episode 7, or at least until news starts pouring in about it, and we can see where the trajectory is headed with these. Any talent you would like to see attached?
Are we talking director? Are we talking actor? Or
well, yeah. Who would you like? I mean, is there anybody from the original movies you'd like to see continue? Do you want to see Jake Lloyd reprise his role as Anakin Skywalker?
I don't know if I'd like to see the original actors come back. In fact, I think the only one who would be worth watching might be Mark Hamill, which is a weird thing to say, just because everyone else seems to have lost their talents, whereas maybe he's kind of found a renaissance of his talents in voice acting, and he still looks like he could play, an older version of himself. But I don't know. I think that would be the only character or possible actor I'd like to see come back. If there was another actor that I think, still has all the cachet in the world to be put into this universe, especially at the moment, would maybe Tom Hardy.
As the big heavy, maybe?
As somebody who might be able to walk the line of both bad guy and good guy. That's what a lot of the follow-up books are about, with people who ride the line of dark and light.
I think it would be really cool to see Mark Hamill in sort of the Obi-Wan role. I think that would be kind of cool. And no, that's a great idea with Tom Hardy. I didn't even really think about actors.
Yeah, nobody does, and it's stupid too, but it was like the first guy that came to mind when I thought about somebody I'd like to see in the film and bring it some sort of level of, I don't know, just emotion.
I would at least want to see a Han Solo type character who walks that line between good and bad. An anti-hero. I think that's what the prequels missed the most, is an everyman character. When this was announced, I think the names that got brought up the most were Joss Whedon and J.J. Abrams, because Whedon did Firefly, everyone loves Firefly, and J.J. Abrams, obviously a Star Wars fan, because he basically turned Star Trek into Star Wars with his reboot. I do not want to see either of those attached. I think they did their own thing. I do think it's probably a good idea that Disney have Whedon look at the script, because obviously he's in their system. He's working for Marvel, so I don't think they can get enough eyeballs to look at this thing, especially after the franchise was so one vision for so long.
Well, did you happen to see this morning there was a short list of directors that was supposedly making the rounds that include, did you see that?
Mm-mm.
Well, the list supposedly included this set of names: Neil Blomkamp, Steven Spielberg, Matthew Vaughn, and Alfonso Cuarón. And the thing about it is, this afternoon, the rumor mill is that Matthew Vaughn quit X-Men to do Star Wars Episode 7. And it makes sense that they get somebody right away, because, 2015 is not too far away to get a huge film like this going.
I mean, how could you say no to Star Wars? That would make a lot of things make sense, this whole Matthew Vaughn thing. So that's a conspiracy theory I can get behind. I'd love to see Spielberg do one. I don't know if they will want to pay him, but I know it's always been a dream of his, I think, to direct a Star Wars, and George wouldn't let him.
Well, if we're going to say somebody who you can't say no to Star Wars, just talk to David Lynch.
Yeah, that's true. That was that Jedi he was going to direct?
Yes, he turned it down when the Ewoks were discussed.
Man, that would have been something else. Well, I don't know. There were so many crazy news stories that came out of this, one of which you brought to my attention was that Disney buying Lucasfilm could mean the return of a childhood favorite. That would be the Muppet Babies.
Oh yes, and there was a funny, the thing that I emailed you about this is that nobody really knows why the Muppet Babies aren't out on DVD or Blu-ray, and then supposedly the story has something to do with copyright laws and who owns what rights. And the thing is that in the 80s, the Muppets, the cartoon was produced by Marvel Productions,
yep,
which is obviously a subsidiary of Marvel Entertainment Group, which Disney bought in 2009. So the funny thing is they bought the Marvel, and now they bought Lucas. So some crazy crackpots out there think that all these moves are simply to bring about the Muppet Babies box set.
That's the master plan. It's not to make new Star Wars movies and to build theme parks and sell toys. It's to bring Muppet Babies. I would buy it.
That would be amazing if that were the true story. That almost sounds like a Coen Brothers film.
I remember Muppet Babies had a lot of film clips in it. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if that's what's keeping it from reaching DVD. But I think it was more than just Star Wars. I think they had Ghostbusters clips in there. One thing that I have read about this whole Star Wars deal that is a little deflating is that Fox still will own and will forever own the original Star Wars movie. Lucas retained the right to the characters and the merchandising rights and then made the sequels independently distributed by Fox. So those hoping for an original trilogy box set with the non-tarnished films, it would require a cooperation between Disney now and 20th Century Fox. And I don't know which clips of the Muppet Babies, which movies they used clips from. So
I would say that all those worries about Fox are completely unfounded. The worry I would say would be George Lucas, because he was the tinkerer. I mean, it just makes sense that down the line, say 10, 15 years, Fox will come out with the original run Blu-ray box set or whatever the medium is at that point. And they'll make a pile of money off of people who don't want to see, the scene with Han walking over Jabba's tail or whatever to get into the Millennium Falcon and take out the whole Greedo shooting first nonsense. Just the people who care that much. And I'm sure almost all of them do.
Yeah, we might actually have to wait till George Lucas dies for that. Moving forward, but also kind of moving back to the Muppets, there was actually a lot of news this week. I mean, we could have talked about half a dozen things, probably. Directors announced, Bryan Singer confirmed for X-Men, Francis Lawrence confirmed for 2 Hunger Games sequels. There's a bunch of things, but I wanted to talk about a casting news item, and that's Christoph Waltz being attached to the sequel to The Muppets. Christoph Waltz, an Oscar-winning actor for Django Unchained, and he is going to play an Interpol inspector in a Europe set sequel for The Muppets. Is this good news? Are you still kind of excited for a Muppet sequel, or did you find the first one a little disappointing like I did?
Well, before we go too far, I just wanted to correct you. It was Inglourious Basterds he won his Oscar for. But
what did I say? Django Unchained?
Yes. No, don't worry. We'll just push on. Oh. But just wanted to do that before any flames hit our podcast. So the Muppets, I wasn't completely in love with it like everyone seemed to be, but I wouldn't mind seeing another one. And if Christoph Waltz seems to ride that line of a funny guy, even in Inglourious Basterds, he was, kind of a goofy dude. So I think he kind of fits as long as whoever puts it together doesn't get too nostalgic, as I thought the other one was. It was a little too slow.
They have announced James Bobin will return as director, I think. Mm-hmm. I think they're having different writers. The only thing that worries me about this is that the Europe set comedy thing, mm-hmm. which I think is great in principle, but it's basically what happened in Great Muppet Caper, the original sequel. Not saying that it's a crime caper or whatever, but if they're trying to follow that model too closely, that's just kind of lazy. I would rather see them do something completely different, like Muppets in Space. Which I don't think they actually went in space in Muppets in Space, if I remember. But if Christoph Waltz ends up winning an Oscar, by the way, for Django Unchained, I'm going to pretend I predicted it right there. Nice. It was not a mistake. It was not a mistake at all. But speaking of Django Unchained, that's all I really have to say about the Muppet sequels.
That's perfectly fine.
Moving on to his Django Unchained co-star, Christoph Waltz's co-star, Jamie Foxx, has also had some big casting news. He is going to be the villain, not officially announced, but they've pretty much announced it. He is going to be playing Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Where do you fall on Jamie Foxx, first off, Pat?
I think he's talented, but not enough for me to have to see a movie that he's in. I think he has to be joint to something that I care about, like Spider-Man. I would say I'd see him in it.
Exactly, that's where I'm falling. I remember seeing him, I think he was on In Living Color or one of those shows, or maybe had his own.
He was on In Living Color.
Yeah, and just, kind of writing him off a little bit. And then I saw him in Any Given Sunday and really liked him in that. I think that was kind of his breakout as a dramatic actor. But I'm kind of tired of him, and I think it's kind of that overexposure thing that happens to actors who are outspoken or have a very public life. But I'm actually quite excited about this news. I know there's some grumbling that he's not, quote-unquote, I'm doing air quotes, which I realize you can't see on the podcast, but that he's not right for the role. But I'm a pretty big Spider-Man fan, and I know Electro as a character, well, that's the thing. Like, I don't know if he's really that well defined of a character in the first place, other than that he has Electro powers. I know his name is Max Dillon. I knew that, but I think he's so different from appearance to appearance that I think it's totally fine as long as they don't put him in that stupid lightning bolt headset that he had originally in the comics. I endorse this casting announcement. It's different. It's unexpected.
Yeah, I would say so as well, because it seems in a lot of these superhero movies they don't put a lot of races in the film, and obviously it's another black man playing a villain that some people might be upset with or something along those lines, but I would embrace it. I mean, they didn't go the Donald Glover as Spider-Man route, but this is good enough, and they do seem to have a good ploy of putting serious actors in the villains in Marvel films, which is a good thing.
We didn't even talk about it when it happened, but they also announced that Mary Jane was going to be in the sequel, and she would be played by Oscar nominee Shailene Woodley. Another good cast. The first film had its flaws, obviously. I think what it has been doing right is in the casting, and with Shailene Woodley and hopefully Jamie Foxx. I'm really looking forward to the Spider-Man sequel.
I don't know if I'm necessarily really looking forward to it, because the last one wasn't as amazing as I thought it was going to be. But this is definitely something to get me to go, even if we don't review it.
So we're going to move on to our feature review of the week. That would be the video game cartoon Wreck-It Ralph.
I'm gonna wreck it!
My name's Wreck-It Ralph. I'm gonna wreck it! 30 years I've been doing this. It starts to feel hard to love your job.
I can fix it!
When no one else seems to like you for doing it.
In the video game world of Fix-It Felix Jr., Ralph is the building-smashing bad guy. After 30 years as an antagonist, Ralph decides he's tired of being alone and leaves his game to become a hero.
Sure must be nice being the good guy.
Nice share, Ralph. As fellow bad guys, we've all felt what you're feeling.
I don't want to be the bad guy anymore.
After 30 years, the story of the one-man wrecking crew and weary bad guy, Ralph, has come to the big screen. After doing a little research, it seems the film has been kicking around Disney since the mid-'80s, when video games first took hold in home entertainment. In the interim, video games, much like animated films, have greatly changed, and so has Disney's stranglehold on the industry of animation. Graphics, violence, storylines, everything has become much more complex in both worlds. While it's considered a video game film, think Lara Croft Tomb Raider, Prince of Persia, Super Mario Bros., and the like, Wreck-It Ralph's video game does not exist outside of the film. So Jacob, while the setting never lets you forget the film is set inside the video game universe, gaming puns, famous Avatar cameos, all the Technicolor you can handle, when the credits started to roll, did you find yourself lumping it into that video game movie genre, or is Ralph something else?
It's something else, but I'd be hard-pressed not to put it in that video game movie category, even though that has become a dirty word with so many bad video game adaptations. This falls into a video game movie genre that is films about video games instead of adaptations, and I think those in general have done much more interesting things. Think the documentary King of Kong, or Indie Game the Movie. This movie, Existenz, The Matrix, it uses technology and the colorful graphics to tell a story instead of trying to tell the same story a video game does, but with different tools. If that answered your question.
I completely agree. No, I completely agree. And to me, while it is obviously somewhere in that universe, if maybe a subgenre of video game movie, self-referential in some way, it seems kind of like a lot of people are talking about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but it almost seems like Toy Story. I'm sure someone's mentioned that, or several people have. But obviously it follows a lot of the same rules where all these video game people exist, and they do play with the children or the users. The first-person shooter, so to speak, has become very apparent in one of the games. But they're full-blooded. They're not just crazy, stupid action movies like the ones I mentioned, most noticeably probably Lara Croft, which is Prince of Persia is much better than that. But it's been such a long time since Lara Croft came out and I saw it that I don't even remember if it's all that bad.
I don't think it is all that bad. It's certainly better than Super Mario Bros., which you also mentioned.
Yes, yeah, okay.
It's interesting that you said Toy Story, because that thought came to me immediately in the fact that I saw a tweet someone made where they said 2012 will be known as the year where Pixar made a Disney movie and Disney made a Pixar film. I don't think either of them fully succeeded 100% in that, but I can definitely see where people are making those comparisons. Obviously, the Disney film they're talking about, Pixar making is Brave, the princess movie. But this obviously is taking a meta look where they can bring in familiar faces, kind of like how Toy Story did, Mr. Potato Head, and this does with cameos by Sonic the Hedgehog or Zangief from Street Fighter. Just kind of throwing them into, they're still kind of the characters they were in the video games, but also they exist in this new world. It reminded me a lot of those early, I don't want to say unambitious Pixar, but before they got really lofty with their storytelling goals, when they were just interested in telling a sweet story, making you care about these characters, setting it in a world like inside a video game or inside of a toy box or inside of a wherever bugs live, outside.
So was there anything in the film that you say, what was the thing that impressed you the most? I have my idea, but I want to hear what you're thinking first.
Impressed me the most? I will say this film got me on the emotional level with its ending. And with the first half, I really wasn't expecting it to, because it seemed very much just to be a appealing to kids on the base level, learning to be yourself type generic cartoon. But by the time it got to the end, all the pieces sort of came together. I do have a little nitpick, which would be a spoiler about the fate of one character and how it falls into a certain company's brand. Those who have seen the movie might pick up on where I'm going with that. But I really was impressed on how they developed the characters and how they made me care about them by the end.
I would agree, but I would just kind of give it the cover saying I was impressed with the story, especially coming from Disney, who's brought us crap like Mars Needs Moms, which I actually have seen about 20 minutes of and wanted to just shoot myself. And not necessarily bad, but nothing that's going to make you remember it, like Bolt or Tangled. It's just that the craft of this film, you almost feel like you can see where it's going at first, but then it just starts taking all these turns with its characters that are really pretty much for the most part very well formed. And there's a point in the film where I was thinking, man, I don't know exactly how they're going to get that Disney happy ending that you're almost guaranteed when you see Walt Disney, animation, or Walt Disney period. And when almost every character is in peril and the stakes are high and seem to be set in stone, you don't know how it's going to happen. Of course, it's a children's film, so they're not going to go out there and just stab the main character in the heart. But it got pretty low, it seemed, at some points. Now
that John Lasseter is a producer, he's been a producer for the past few years of Disney animated features, but you can see that Pixar influence seeping its way through. And I do think that's kind of the secret to this film, is that it's aspiring to be a Pixar level hit. It's so weird that they have two studios that basically do the same thing now.
Well, the one thing that's kind of sets these studios apart is, at least till this point, Pixar hasn't necessarily leaned very heavily on like the voice actors, whereas Disney always has had like, the marquee names. And this movie, while it has the marquee names, it's not necessarily pitch for pitch. Oh, this is like, think about Bolt that had John Travolta in it, and that was basically just John Travolta talking for 2 hours.
Yeah, it does something that Pixar is really good at. And I promise that's the last time I'll say the name. But of casting the actors that are right for the roles. I think John C. Reilly did an awesome job voice acting Wreck-It Ralph.
Well, who I was really surprised with was Jane Lynch. I thought at first it just kind of seemed like she was playing her Glee, like general character, until she has a moment with Jack McBrayer's character, and she has like a moment of serious acting to do there, which I generally don't say about voice actors.
And I also really liked Sarah Silverman, who she's basically doing her voice and, in fact, probably doing every character she's done, but doing it as a cute cartoon kid. And that turns out to really suit her, actually, and suit her personality. There was a little bit of potty humor that I didn't appreciate in this film. Call me a prude. But the kids seem to love it.
I was actually, there wasn't any joke in the film that I thought was, there was plenty of stuff that was on the nose and very pun heavy. That's what you can expect from a very meant for kids film and video game, knowing what it's doing video game movie. But I was laughing several times out loud, which I didn't necessarily think that was going to happen. Well, you mentioned your gripe a little earlier, but my gripe that I still haven't gotten over, and it's hard to talk about without giving anything away, but towards the end of the film, when they try to set up how the resolution can come about, there's a few things that happen that it makes sense within a video game universe. However, how they unfold almost seemed like it would be the downfall of everyone in the movie as opposed to the resolution. So without telling anything about that, if you see this movie and know anything about video games, at a certain point something will happen, or they mention it could happen, and you're like, oh, well, that's just terrible for everyone. So that's the one thing I still have yet to get over. But for the most part, I agree completely. It does work, and I will look forward to watching this again, especially with, say, down the line when I have kids.
I also want to put a quick shout out for the short film that precedes it, Paperman.
Yes, very cool.
Which was very cool. Did you see Wreck-It Ralph in 3D or in 2D?
2D.
Yeah, me as well. And I kind of wish I had seen at least that first short film in 3D, because I bet it was pretty impressive. All right, well, Wreck-It Ralph is rated PG for some rude humor and mild action violence. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's new on DVD, talk about some other random recommendations and ramblings, and then talk about politics in the movies, or our favorite movie politicians. Please keep listening. New on DVD this week, that's the week of November 2nd, or November 6th, excuse me. Pretty light week. The film 360, which is a drama by who at one point was one of my favorite directors, Fernando Meirelles, who did City of God and The Constant Gardener, two films I really liked. He also did Blindness, which I think is underappreciated. Maybe I'll feel the same way about 360. I don't know much about it other than it's one of those we're all connected type dramas, and it doesn't have spaceships, so it's less interesting to me than Cloud Atlas. A film that,
just because it's missing the spaceships?
Because it's missing spaceships. Arthur Christmas, which my brother, I think, saw and really liked, and Your Sister's Sister, which is a small indie movie with Emily Blunt. I also wanted to note, have you seen this thing, Pat, the Universal 100-Year Collection?
I have not. Is this... I saw something about nope, I do not know what this is.
It is a collection of 25 films, I think. Universal celebrating its 100th anniversary. I have no idea who would want to own this thing. It has some great movies in it. To Kill a Mockingbird, E.T., Jurassic Park, all the great Universal movies, but also...
The Fast and the Furious?
Fast and the Furious. I don't know who would buy that. This is such a random assortment. I cannot...
It just means they had a lot of extra stock, and they wanted to get rid of it to some suckers out there.
Yeah, I will not put that on my Christmas list. But, Pat, this is the part of the show where we usually talk about what we have watched outside of our required review movie. What did you see this week?
Well, generally, whenever I'm sitting around, like waiting for something to render at work, I'll just go to YouTube and watch a video. And somehow I stumbled upon Inside the Actor's Studio with Mickey Rourke. I'm somebody who appreciates Mickey Rourke and don't really care about, actors' crazy lives outside of whatever, or who they've pissed off and all that nonsense. But... I remember watching The Pope of Greenwich Village a couple of years ago and being like, wow, this guy was just a powerhouse actor back in the 80s. And obviously now he's still just as good. I still love The Wrestler. But I hadn't really seen any of the films he was in. And probably the one that everybody talks about is Diner. And it just so happens that that's on Netflix. And he mentioned it in Inside the Actor's Studio. So I took a little Mickey Rourke tour of Netflix this past week and watched Rumblefish, which is Francis Ford Coppola, teenage 20-something noir set in the 80s in Tulsa or Oklahoma City. It's very bizarre, very weird. But watch Diner, which apparently is the first film that set up the craze about movies and TV shows about nothing. I had no idea about that until I saw it, but there really is no plot to the film. And have you seen Diner?
I have not seen Diner.
Well, it's apparently it's the first, I don't know if this is true, but one of the first things to have no plot, because I've only seen it once, but I believe Much Ado About Nothing is a play that has no plot.
Much Ado About Nothing, is that the one where they're trying to set up each other? I think there is a plot in Much Ado About Nothing, but
okay, I think it's just a light plot, like very loose. But there's something in this film, but there's just too many characters and too light to be anything serious. But it was interesting. It's one of those movies that maybe if you lived inside the context of it coming out, it might mean a lot more to you. But it's not something that I'm going to put on a pantheon of any sort.
The only thing I know about Diner is I think Kevin Costner was cut from it or something like that. He was like the dead friend or something. Does that sound like something?
No, that is The Big Chill.
Oh, that's The Big Chill. So I know nothing about Diner. Is Ron Howard in Diner?
No.
Okay, I know. Barry, was it directed by Barry Levinson?
Yes.
Okay, I know one thing about Diner.
Kevin Bacon's in it too.
Okay, well now I can connect Mickey Rourke and Kevin Bacon. So I did learn something from this conversation. I mentioned earlier that I was in a film Q&A screening for listening to some filmmakers talk when I learned the Star Wars news. That film was for a documentary called Terra Blight, which is about e-cycling and the e-waste we leave behind. I would call it an issue film and not an advocacy film because the film is more concerned with providing you information than giving you solutions or telling you what's right and wrong. I do think some of the issues it doesn't flesh out well enough, but if you're interested in technological waste, terrablight.com is the website. It took me a while to get what the title was. It's a play on the word terabyte. But Terra is spelled with 2 R's, like Earth. TerraBlight. So check that out if that's something that interests you. Also, this past week, I've been quite excited for the upcoming Skyfall. So I wanted to refresh myself on some Daniel Craig, James Bond. And I'd seen Casino Royale fairly recently. I've seen it a bunch of times. So I decided to rewatch Quantum of Solace for the first time since the theater, and that film does not hold up. It's not a good film.
You have something against people who drink oil? Or?
Do get drowned in oil? The Daniel Craig, James Bond, I remember getting the critique that you like to give, the everything is or Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that so much in Casino Royale, but I definitely see it in Quantum of Solace. Just it's trying so hard with the hand-to-hand combat and with the nonsensical... In the Bourne movies it works, but the car chase where you cannot tell what the hell is going on. And the plot in general of Quantum of Solace, it does not hold together scene to scene. I read that it went into production right before the writer's strike, so they were working off of a first draft, and that makes total sense. But from what I've heard, Skyfall is an improvement on that. So we'll have to wait to see till next week. Do you remember seeing Quantum of Solace? Do you remember liking it?
I did not see it in the theater, but I did see it afterwards. And initially, I don't know if I was not watching out of the corner of my eye or something, but I didn't see what all the hubbub about it being so bad was. But I have no, as opposed to Casino Royale, which I've seen several times since it came out, I have no desire to see it again. So that's something.
And I was a defender of it until this week. Moving on, this podcast is dropping after that election. Pat, wasn't that election crazy?
Oh man, I can't believe that guy won. I couldn't believe he was going to pull it out.
Yeah, and I totally voted for the other guy. So
well, I was going to say that our listeners should not feel bad because we voted for their candidate.
Don't blame me. I voted for Kodo.
Love it. And that's a wrap.
Always twirling, twirling, twirling. Okay, but we wanted to take this opportunity to talk about maybe something a little more inspiring than the current political landscape, or maybe even more scary, even more frightening. Maybe some of our picks will be villains. I'm not going to give too much away. But talk about movie politicians, maybe some movie presidents, cinematic politicians. I want to know who you would vote for, Pat. Maybe also share some of your favorite political films. I'll share some of mine. And we have some listener comments, too. So let's dive into it. Do you have one you want to share?
Well, if I was going to vote for anybody, it'd be a hard pick. Because, first off, I have to say I have not seen Dr. Strangelove, so I cannot talk about President Merkin Muffley. But if I had to vote and there was a 3-party system in play, it would be a pick between Jack Nicholson from Mars Attacks, probably Kevin Kline from Dave, and of course Michael Douglas from An American President. And I'd probably end up going with Dave, Kevin Kline, just because that movie is so funny. And I am always referencing the scene where he has the giant mechanical arms. He said, "I once caught a fish this big," but just he's such a lighthearted, happy guy. And there's never a president like that, probably because they're dealing with, terrorists and whatnot, but that would be somebody I'd like to vote for.
I haven't seen Dave in a long time, but I'm really glad you said Martin Sheen in The American President. In fact, 2 of my favorite movie politicians, or memorable movie politicians, have kind of a connect. No, wait, it's not Martin Sheen in The American President.
No, it's Michael Douglas, but Martin Sheen is in the film, so
yes.
I'll let you go on a technicality.
But here's the thing about The American President. It's so obviously a precedent to The West Wing, where Martin Sheen played president. And I think I have a lot more fond feelings for The West Wing than I do The American President. But I do think The American President is a good movie and has a very similar politics. Can't we all just get along type message to it. But Martin Sheen did play an evil politician in one of my favorite movies, The Dead Zone by David Cronenberg. And actually, it's unfair to say he gets to play president because something happens in that movie before that could happen. But that's kind of where the plot shifts, the third act of that movie. Have you ever seen The Dead Zone?
No, I haven't.
It's one of my favorite Christopher Walken film performances, one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations. And it's not a political film whatsoever, but I wanted to make sure we got it's kind of a spoiler, but an evil politician in there. And that would be Martin Sheen in The Dead Zone.
Oh, I was just going to say now, a lot of the people that I was looking for, like, when it's in an election year, I have come to the point, I voted last month when it was early voting just because I was tired of it all. I didn't care anymore. And, I was not an undecided voter. And I was looking at my list and trying to steer away from serious films because that's just the climate we're in right now where it's the election. It's supposed to be serious, but I'd rather have a few laughs in my private life. So I was steered towards Dave, and I was steered towards, President Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho from Idiocracy. He's not a good politician to, talk about, but it's a funny character to think that could happen. But if I were to pick somebody who was serious from serious political films, I would go. We've both seen State of Play, but Jeff Daniels plays just this terrible, just old school politician, Senator George Fergus, and in it he's like kind of, shouldering out Ben Affleck's senator from the film. But it's really, maybe it's more to talk about Jeff Daniels, but that would be my choice for if I were to go down a serious line. Did you have somebody that maybe in the mold of a more realistic based senator or politician or president?
Oh, I'm trying not to fall into the cliche here, but I am a fan of Frank Capra's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and Jimmy Stewart's performance in that. I had to watch that in social studies class. I guess reflecting on my social studies class, we watched a lot of films, and that was one of them. And
it's a good way to not have to write a lesson plan.
Yeah, exactly. And another film we watched, I don't know if this is breaking the law because it's a real life president portrayed in a film, but he wasn't president yet. Young Mr. Lincoln. That was a John Ford film with Henry Fonda playing Lincoln when he was just a lawyer, and that's a really spectacular film that I really want to rewatch, but it stayed with me ever since. But I have to say, when we decided we were going to do movie presidents or movie politicians, the first name that came to me was the same name that our listener Nate Countryman suggested. He says, "When I think presidential, I always think of Bill Pullman's character from Independence Day. That may say a lot about how bombastic that Roland Emmerich film is than anything else." That's the first place my mind goes, is that speech right before, or is that at the very end of the film? That is at the very end of the film. But
right before the climactic battle.
Before the climactic battle, when he says, "This day will be our Independence Day," and everyone cheers, and what more could you want? And also, while we're saying end of the world presidents, Morgan Freeman in Deep Impact, I'm pretty sure he has a very presidential aura about him as well.
Much better than Danny Glover in 2012.
Was he the president in 2012?
I'm pretty certain.
Yeah, I believe you. I've forgotten most of that film. So, sad to say.
Sad to say.
Or I'm glad to say. Might as well. I have another listener suggestion here I'm going to read. Spencer Vermeer says, "Two of my faves are Lemon and Gardner in My Fellow Americans. I think that one found a lot of the humor in being or running for president." I don't think I've ever seen My Fellow Americans. Have you?
It's been a long time, but yes, I saw it a long time ago.
We had some echoes for President Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho and Kevin Kline. And
did you get anybody to mention Air Force One? I mean, how can you? There's no better line than "Get off my plane."
No one mentioned Air Force One, and I still have not seen Air Force One. I don't know if that's a really huge blind spot in my regard or not. I am totally shamed by our mutual friend Jonathan G, who wrote on my Facebook wall Charles Foster Kane as a movie politician. He didn't win his election, though, did he? It's been
No, he didn't.
It's been a long time, but a lot of people remember him in front of that sign. It's such an iconic image, the Kane banner with his face really big. And I wanted to read my brother's suggestion because I think it's pretty good. He says it overlaps with literature, but President Zaphod Beeblebrox from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Absolutely. Oh, my goodness.
I've never read any of the books, and I feel kind of ashamed to admit that, but that Sam Rockwell performance from the film a few years ago was one of the best things about it. But one other politician I wanted to bring up, and this is not presidential by any means, but we've talked about it on the show before. One of my favorite movies is Election. And I
was going to throw that in the hat, too. I didn't know if it fit.
Yeah. I would say Tracy Flick is a really... a memorable movie politician for sure. And
I completely agree. I'm glad you threw her in.
Anything else you want to add before we wrap up this segment?
Yes, I'd be remiss if I didn't throw in at least one shout out to the first person that popped in my mind when I thought of this, and that would be an actor I never heard of before, except I think we all know him for saying, "Party on, dudes!" from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It's Robert G. Marin as President Lincoln.
I mentioned young Mr. Lincoln earlier, but I also was a fan of Benjamin Walker's performance as Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. But when we come back, we're going to wrap this sucker up with a little bit of feedback.
Stick around.
Last week, our podcast dropped on Halloween, so we talked about the movies that frightened us the most, and we read a lot of listener feedback. We got some more feedback from Doug, who somebody's film that scared him was Silver Bullet, and apparently Silver Bullet also scared Doug.
Doug said that Silver Bullet terrified me as a little kid. The werewolf was scary, and as an adult, Gary Busey just scares me in general. I believe it was my friend who mentioned Silver Bullet, and I had never seen it, and I'm sorry, Doug. I guess I'll just have to see it before next Halloween so I know if it's worthy of my time on at midnight on Halloween. That's always the best time to watch any scary movie ever. But if you want to be as cool as Doug, there are a few ways to get in touch with us. There's just like Doug did on our podcast website, filmcastwithoutacause.com. Leave a comment there, and it is guaranteed to make it in the show until we start getting a billion comments. But at this point, it is guaranteed to make it into the show. So, Filmcast Without a Cause. Other ways to reach us, Twitter, Filmcast WOAC. That's at Filmcast WOAC. That's how you can reach us there. It's also the same for our email, filmcastwoac@gmail.com.
What we want to hear for feedback this week is we want to hear more about your favorite movie politicians. And next week on the show, we're going to do a holiday preview. Much like we did a few weeks ago with the fall movie preview, we're going to talk about all the movies that are coming up leading to the very end of the year. Serious Oscar baity stuff we're talking about. We're also going to be reviewing one of these movies that's coming up in theaters. November 8th, the new 007 movie Skyfall is coming out. And on November 9th, a film that's already on demand. It's the comedy starring Tim Heidecker of Tim and Eric fame, and Steven Spielberg's Lincoln. Pat, you and I, we went back and forth whether it's going to be Skyfall or Lincoln. We landed eventually on Skyfall, but if one of us sees Lincoln, we'll probably talk about it on the podcast, I'm pretty sure.
Definitely.
But that's all we have for now. Thank you very much for all the people who have been leaving comments on my Facebook or getting on the website and listening to the show. I will thank you again and say later.
That's a wrap.
I'm finished.